Hello and welcome back to another week of Sambo iRacing. It is week 8, season 1, 2024. We are, of course, in the iRacing Formula Ford 1600 at Lime Rock Classic. Unlike the V, this is going to be slightly more tricky because there are still some braking points. It will be a race or a good week of racing because there's going to be a great deal of wheel-to-wheel action without the amount of differentiators that there certainly were last week and the week before at Charlotte and Rudskogen. Anyway, like and subscribe if you find these videos remotely interesting, and you can join me in the cockpit and we'll run through the first lap. Okay, thanks for joining me in the cockpit. So here we are on the left-hand side of the road, giving it full beans, down the home straight, leaving it in fourth gear, and what we do is, just before we get to the 2 marker on the right-hand side, we're going to give it a big lick of brakes in a straight line up to nearly, about 70%. And then as we start to turn towards the apex, what we're going to do is we're going to start bleeding off the brake in a nice trail brake. We're going to drop it down to 3rd gear at the apex. And then we're just going to balance the car around, feeling for the grip, dropping it back down into 2nd. And then we're just going to feel for the grip, and every time we need a little bit more rear rotation, we're just going to bleed off the throttle a little bit more. Make sure that we're really clipping this inside curbing on the right-hand side. And then once we're nicely settled, it's quite a late apex, fully back on the throttle. Now we'll move over to the right-hand side, and we're just going to give a little dab of brakes coming into this next turn, into turn 3. Again, it's very difficult in terms of braking markers, but there's this slightly lighter patch of asphalt on the right-hand side. So that's what I'm usually looking for. Or on the left-hand side, you can know that it's a beat after the rumble strip stops. So what I'm doing is I'm moving over to the right-hand side. I'm leaving it in 2nd gear. And I'm just going to give it a little dab of brakes and come off the throttle slightly and then just balance it round. And then I'm going to continue to balance it round. You're going to get some oversteer. That's fine. You can see I just correct it there. Make sure I'm heading in the right direction, and then you're wanting to get onto the throttle nice and early because you're going to remain on the throttle now all the way through until the uphill, which is turn 5. So we get on the throttle nice and early. So just as we're coming back onto the track, fully on there, we're going to leave the throttle on full now for the whole way through turn 4. Up to 3rd gear on the blue light. Now what we're looking for is the rumble strip, and where that begins on the left-hand side. All we're going to do here is a lift. We're going to do quite a big lift just to make sure we're getting through the corner. So as you see, as I get there, I do a big lift down to about about a third of the pressure of full, and you're looking to clip the inside. And then just as you get into this apex there, I'm building back up on the throttle so that by the time I'm fully back on the asphalt, I'm back up to 100%. Your car does go light at the top of that hill, so don't worry about it. And then this next part, it's very difficult because there is no defined braking marker. So it's only going to be a little brake and a little trail off. But what I'm going to try and do in post-production is I'm going to put a big sort of circle on the tree that I'm always looking out for. It's the sort of round one on the left-hand side. So it's more in the foreground, and that's what I'm looking for. And as I get there, just before I get there, I give it a little dab of brakes, and I trail that off down to the apex, leaving it in 3rd, and just keeping some maintenance throttle on. You don't really want to clip this inside curbing because it does push you back out to the left. But just as I get there, I'm fully back up to full throttle now. Don't want to go any further left than I am, so absolutely fine to be on the rumble strip. The grass, not so much fun. Up to 4th gear, and then for this turn, now you can do this when this is Lime Rock GP or Lime Rock chicanes. Certainly when it's Lime Rock chicanes, you can take this flat out in 4th gear because you're going at a lower speed. But I find it slightly safer. It only costs you maybe a fraction of a hundredth to do a lift here. So what I do is I give it a lift going down towards the apex, still leaving it in 4th gear, and then I'm fully back on the throttle before I get to the apex, and then just holding it. And I've actually taken that quite nicely on the inside. You can go a lot further out, but it didn't harm my time. You will see a lot of people spin off on the left-hand side here in the race. And that's it. Not a huge amount to it. This is a 54, what comes at 54.074. So it's going to be a competitive time. People, if you're putting that in the races, you're going to be there or thereabouts. Quite as easy to turn around for a sandwich in there as it is in the V. Oh, steering wheel goes crazy. And right, join me again for the chase cam, and you'll be able to see my throttle inputs and the trail braking far better. Okay, here we are, right in the chase cam. I'm going to play it through at full speed, so the telemetry data will actually work properly. You see a nice trailing it off, keeping a bit of maintenance throttle on, down to second gear, cut the corner, fully back on the throttle, over to the right hand side, go past that patch, give it a little dab of brakes, balance it round, a little bit of oversteer there corrected, keeping in the throttle here, get the car really kicking out. Drifting never hurt anyone in the Ford. Little lift here, back on the throttle. Get to this tree, little dab of brakes, trail it off. In third. Up to fourth. Little lift, back on the throttle nice and early. And there we go for a 54.074. See you again for one last run through with the driving line on from the cockpit. Okay, one last run through in the cockpit with the driving line on at full speed. Now, if you are racing your race last season and you're not being able to beat your times from last season, don't worry too much. It is a warmer track. That does mean you've got slightly less grip. But the bonus of that is it does mean your tyres will warm up that little bit quicker during the race. Only a couple of corners quicker, but still, anything's a bonus. Thanks for sticking with me. I've been Sambo iRacing. I'll see you again next week.